Hello and welcome back to a belated episode of Retro Gamers Half Time, the show that looks at new games for old systems. Now this game that we're covering this time around was released on the Nintendo Switch, the PlayStation 4 and the Vita in 2020, but we're not looking at those versions, oh no. We're going to have a look at the Sega Megadrive version, which was released in October 2019. It's quite impressive for all things considered for a games console that was released in 1988. So this game is Ultracore, and this was known as Hardcore originally, once upon a time, where it was developed by DICE and was due to be released for the Amiga, the Sega Genesis and Sega CD, and that was in 1994/1995. For whatever reason, this game was shelved and didn't see the light of day until it was picked up and released, initially for the Mega SG console by Analog, where it was built into those machines there, and then was later released on cartridge by Strictly Limited. Now, what we have here is actually a mostly complete game, and it's quite interesting to see why this was cancelled in the first place. Some cite that it was because that the 32-bit generation of consoles were in their infancy at this time, and perhaps a 16-bit version of this game wouldn't have sold, so it was shelved. Now, what we have here is actually a really great game, and it's such a shame that this didn't get released at the time. Obviously glad that it's here now, but this is you get a very much Amiga Euro style from this game, in all honesty. It would fit absolutely perfectly in with the Amiga's library of games, and the Mega Drive had its fair share of sort of run and gun games at the time as well, and this is certainly one of the more impressive ones that I've ever played, certainly. I mean, your mileage might vary, you might have very well played better games in the genre than this, but what I took away from this when I played it was actually a really fun game. So let's get sort of into it and see what this game is all about, really. So you start off as like sort of a lone soldier, and you have landed on this what looks like alien environment planet. And basically you are faced with killing off any of the creatures that you encounter on the way. It's mostly robots and machinery that you're fighting against here, and you've got a time limit on the game, which is quite interesting. You didn't see that so often back then. Was on the Mega Drive certainly was a time limit like this. So you start off with sort of around about 500 seconds to get from point A to point B. Along the way, you're basically trying to find the remnants and bits of story of the various soldiers and stuff that have perished along the way. So it's got story elements to it, gives you a couple of pages of text to read that builds up basically what's happened here and what's occurred. Graphically, it's quite a nice looking game, I think. And I've had a couple of malfunctions from the Mega Drive hardware that I was using. It was a clone console, so it was to be expected that it was not actually up to snuff to run this cartridge, being a terrible piece of garbage. So graphically it's not the most colourful game in the world, and once you get sort of into the actual hive environment that you're in, you're mostly met with browns and greens, and the splattering of colour is usually on the surface, which you don't see all too often. I found the levels were quite long on this game, and although you don't sort of get lost so much, you do die quite a lot on this. It's not hard to see why it was called Hardcore originally, because it is quite a difficult game. But you are aided with weapons every now and again, and various power-ups that you can find throughout the game world, which will aid you on your travels, and you certainly do need them. But also there's various sprung traps and timed set pieces that you have to be careful to avoid, things like spikes and etc, all the staples of these sort of platforming games. There's relentless amount of enemies that come at you. There are absolutely loads, various turrets that shoot at you while you're trying to find the switches to open the doors, and that can get a bit intense at the best of times, but it's up there with the sort of staples of the genre anyway, and you know what to expect if you do play this game. What's perhaps a little bit sad about this game is the fact that it is so difficult to obtain on a cartridge now, that where it was done by Strictly Limited, the physical release of this game is now commanding really big money on eBay, so it moves out of the air of a curio and it really is for sort of more your dedicated collectors. You can get a clone cartridge on AliExpress, but I probably wouldn't recommend that. I mean, that's the route I went down here, because naturally I couldn't stretch to getting the physical copy of this and missed it the first time it came. Mega Drive's not really my primary console anyway. I just quite enjoy the unusual games that come out for it. But would I give this game a recommendation? I certainly would. Yeah, I think in actual fact it is worth the asking price that it goes for now on eBay, and if you can stomach paying that sort of money for this game, you're going to have a hell of a good time with it, because it is very, very enjoyable, quite in depth really, and yeah, well worth adding to your Mega Drive collection. So if you can't stretch the Mega Drive version, actually, as I said, you've got the Vita version, the PlayStation 4 and the Switch as well, which you can play it on from their dedicated online stores. So there's a number of ways to play this game in 2021, and I'm just glad that this saw the light of day in the end. It would have been absolutely terrible for this game to never have been enjoyed and played by the general public and retro gamers. So that's all I've got for you this time around. But tune in next time where we'll be checking out another new game for an old system. See you next time. Goodbye.